welcome back to Insights with Nandu. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe, please click the like button, and please do share these videos with your friends and colleagues. In my last video, we talked about the Clay Christensen questions of how you will measure your life. And one of the things I promised to do in that video was explore this whole dimension of ethics and values. Now, our ethics and values are shaped by our exposure, our society, our family, our religion, our country. All of these things go together to shaping who we are, what we think is important, and how we see the world around us. But turns out, looking at the work done by Jonathan Haidt, and he's written a few books about this, there are 5 underlying principles that govern most ethical value systems across human societies in general, and seem to be quite hardwired. The first is what he calls the care-harm foundation, best typified by the way we respond to babies. You see a baby, you smile at it, you coo at it, you want to hold it, and you don't want to allow any harm to come to it. So that's one of the foundations of most of our value systems across societies. The second foundation is what he calls the fairness cheating foundation. And again, this is a foundational principle which apparently is equally present in chimpanzees and dogs and cats as it is in human beings. Almost any mammalian species, particularly, that kind of has some form of social interaction, seems to have a hardwired value system which says, there's some concept of fairness, that I do something good for you today, and in return, you will do something good for me tomorrow. So it's that fairness. It's not that I cheat you and I walk away and I have nothing to do with you anymore. The moment I do that in a social dimension, I lose trust. And then there's very little trust that people have in me in the society. So the fairness cheating dimension really calls upon us to build fairness into the way we treat others and the way we interact with others. The third very important foundation in this context is what Jonathan Haidt calls the loyalty betrayal foundation. Human beings, we are unique at creating identities, tribes, nations, religions, organizational identities that we kind of align ourselves with. And there seems to be a very strong taboo in all our societal values against doing something that goes contrary to this organization that we believe in. So whether it's religion, organization, country, tribe, family, there's a very strong feeling when somebody is said to have betrayed. We see him as somebody who's betrayed these foundations. So loyalty is a very important, one of those loyalty subversion, very important value systems that we. The fourth foundational value is respect for authority. And this is again something that comes from our childhood, where we respect our parents, we respect our teachers, we respect our elders, and it is there all over the world. There are societies who are more egalitarian, societies who are more hierarchical, but there's underlying some respect for authority that is present in all these societies. It is even one of the foundational principles of all religions, some kind of a respect for a higher authority, whom you may call God or any other name. So that's the fourth. And the fifth underlying principle that underpins most value systems is really the sanctity degradation foundation, where we consider, for example, human body, human life as sacrosanct. That's one reason why across most species, and this is hardwired, most species do not engage in cannibalism. They don't eat their own kind. because that would lead to a depletion of the species itself, with exceptions, I think, in power struggles in lions or in chimpanzees or so on. But there is a very strong feeling we have of sanctity of human life particularly, and for many people and value systems, they take the sanctity of human life and extend it to all animal life, or even to all life, or eventually to all of nature and the environment. So the sanctity degradation foundation is the fifth underlying principle upon which all value systems are based. So to get back to the question that we talked about in the last video, which is how do you actually make sure that you are not, in fact, over time in an incremental way, without realizing it, starting to slip or erode your values by your behaviors as a leader or as a manager or even as a human being. So the first step, and that's why I mentioned these 5 underlying principles, reflect on them and reflect on where you stand on these 5 underlying principles that underpin all our value systems. Many of us are making choices all the time. Between these value systems, we may rank one of these value systems higher. In a war, for example, we rank the loyalty foundation a lot higher, that allows people then to go out and actually take human life in order to preserve a higher ideal of loyalty. So this is the kind of trade-offs that we human beings seem to make all the time. So what I'm inviting you first is to be very aware of where you stand on these value systems and what are the trade-offs you make or are willing to make in your own life. First, just start with awareness. Second, look at these value systems and then juxtapose them with what creates economic value for you, financial value for you, your company, society, and so on. And then be aware of what are the trade-offs here that you're willing to make or not make. Now, I don't want to come out here and prescribe to you an absolute value system. I'm saying each one of us is going to make these trade-offs. So the first point I'm making to you here is be aware of your own value systems, your own trade-offs between the values and the hierarchy that you nominate for these values, and the trade-offs that you as an individual and within your society are willing to make between the values and the creation of financial value or economic value for yourself, your company, your society, and so on. Once you're aware of that, then as you go through life, as you go through your career, use this understanding and apply it to the decisions that you are making to make sure that you do not actually somewhere accidentally violate some of these principles without having given it serious thought. So take 5 minutes to reflect on it and make sure that you are in fact aligning with these value systems. Next thing, first awareness. Next thing, try to surround yourself with people who have a similar value system, who can be for you a benchmark, a reference point, as well as a mirror. It's very hard to be the only person with a value system. It makes it a lot easier when you're in a company that has similar kind of values, or your 7 closest friends have similar kinds of values. So that helps guide you. We need that external peer sensitivity and sensibility to help guide our own behaviors over time. The third thing is as part of awareness, be aware that some of the mistakes we made with values it's incrementalism, where we look at, if I make this one little violation, it's not a big deal. So you do the little violation, and then you go a little while and say, that much is okay, so I can do a little more and a little more. And before you realize it, you've gone so far down the track compared to what you said were your earlier values. If you were to then look back, you would be aghast at how far you have come. So be very aware of this incrementalism of making exceptions on your values. I'm not saying don't do it, that's your personal decision, but what I'm saying is do it with awareness and do it with a social peer group that helps challenge you and helps bring you back to the values that you think, that you believe are important. And these values, as I said, would be based on your upbringing, your religion, your country, your laws, and all of that. The thing to be aware of, however, is over time, as it has frequently been borne out, our legal systems are actually lagging behind our evolution in value systems. So a couple of 100 years ago, it was perfectly okay to invade another country and to conquer their territory and enslave their people. Colonialism. A couple of 100 years ago, it was perfectly okay for Britain then to go to war with China and force China to open the borders to opium trade, the drug trade. It was legal in those days. Today we look back at these kinds of behavior, colonialism, legal, the opium wars in China, or all the violence that happened over the last thousands of years, and we are aghast and we say, no, those are not the values we subscribe to as a civil society. Discrimination amongst people, slavery was so common till a couple of 100 years ago. And today we are more and more aware of the fundamental rights, diversity, inclusion, whether it's Black Lives Matter, whether it's LGBTQ, whether it's religious discrimination, gender-based discrimination, ethnic discrimination, etc. So our values are evolving. Our legal systems are actually trying to keep pace and are often lagging this evolution and values and thinking by a few decades. So what I'm inviting you to do is to be very aware of your values and societal values as they are evolving, and be aware that just being law-abiding may not be sufficient to in fact be true with these value evolution, which has to stand out as a lighthouse to help you guide your behavior, so that you can look back upon your career, upon your life without regret, and with a certain sense of pride at the legacy of values that you have left behind, and the legacy of character that you have in fact demonstrated. So, a difficult topic. I hope this framework helps you to start to think. Do share what you think and do share your views, because we can all benefit and learn from each other in this context. So to close this video, do subscribe, do like, do comment in the space below, and do share this video with your friends and colleagues.